Hello and good morning from Los Angeles. This is our Alliance for Women Film Composers Emmy Contender panel. And just look at this group. What an amazing group of wonderful and talented composers we have today from Los Angeles, from London, New York, I think. So welcome our panel. And we're just going to do a quick round so everyone can introduce their project, maybe just mention your project, the category or categories you submitted for, and if you can say a few words about the project, what it means to you, and maybe what's special about that project. And let's start with Sarah Barone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Barone. So happy to be here on this panel today with all these amazing women. I worked on the score for Planet Earth 3 BBC series. I co-wrote it with Jacob Shea, and it's being submitted to the Outstanding Music Composition for a Documentary Series category. That was harder to say than I thought it would be. And yeah, sorry, what was the other thing I was supposed to mention?
What the project means to you, and or what's special about the project.
Yeah, well, I've been a massive fan of the BBC nature shows for many years, and the music always plays a really special and important role. So I was really so grateful to have been brought on this project, and along with Jacob Shea, who has worked on many of these nature series in the past. So it was, yeah, it was. I was very excited to be brought on, and it was a whirlwind. I think we were on it for almost 2 years. So, but it was, yeah, really wonderful experience. So, yeah.
It's beautiful music, and I just want to point out there's a typo, copy and paste typo in the chat room. It's Planet Earth 3. It's not our Planet 3. Our
Oh, yes.
Planet 3 doesn't exist. It's Planet Earth 3. It's a BBC show, and music is out on Spotify. We're gonna also post all the music and all your web links when we post the video. So yeah, everyone should check out the amazing music of all the panelists here. And you know, the idea of this panel today is also so people can get informed and before they vote, listen to your main titles and to your music songs. And next up is Sherry Chang.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sherri Chung. Also very honored to be on this panel with these amazing talents. The show I did promoting is a Peacock original called Based on a True Story, and it's a comedic thriller. It's up for Outstanding Music for Original Series. And there is a season 2. And yeah, I mean, I've never really done a comedic thriller before, and I think there was just kind of a cool challenge about finding the right tone for something like this and getting to experiment with, just different things. I've come from a lot of superhero stuff and a lot of stuff that seems really black and white. You know exactly who the hero is and who you should root for, and so this is one of those where you could kind of root for the bad guy and have a lot of fun with that.
Oh, cool. I have to watch that show. And Sherry's music is going to be performed live at Deadline Sound and Screen Concert this Friday in Los Angeles in UCLA's Royce Hall. And we just sent out an invite on our social media, the Alliance. It's free of charge. So if people want to attend, there's a great reception from 5 to 6:30. You can meet probably everyone, or most of the contenders from Los Angeles will be going there. So go there and hang out. And CHANDA DANCY, what did you...
Hi, everybody. So I worked on a project called LAWMEN Bass Reeves. It's a Paramount Plus original, and also tangentially a part of the Yellowstone universe. It is produced by Taylor Sheridan, Chad Feehan, and David Oyelowo. Amazing actor, by the way. So I'm up for Best Original Score for a Limited Series, and also for Best Main Title Sequence. This project was really amazing. So essentially, I had like a conversation with Taylor Sheridan first, and it was mainly about how we love the golden age of television and how scores, especially scores for like Westerns, think of like Little House on the Prairie or things like that, where you have these big orchestras and like it was, live musicians just, for regularly for TV, and how we were really inspired by Eastern European orchestral music, particularly Brahms and Dvorak, etc. And so how we can marry that with the Baz Reeves universe. And then just learning about Baz Reeves himself, who, by the way, is a real person. And he really was as probably more fantastic in real life than he was than you can possibly do in a show. Real life is always stranger than fiction, for sure. And it was just inspiring. And I was just really allowed to go full steam ahead on this score. Really proud of it and really happy to be here to talk a little bit about it with you. So thank you.
Wonderful, and welcome, Chanda. We'll go to London now to our amazing Sophia Hallquist, Drum and Lace.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Like everyone said, it's great to be in such great company. I've been submitted for a film called Red, White, and Royal Blue. The category is Outstanding Music Composition for a Limited Series or Film, since it's a film. And this project was absolutely fantastic to be on because it derives from a book, which is very beloved and has a really, really strong fan base. So I think the most challenging thing and most rewarding thing was staying true and trying to really depict these characters musically in a way that would resonate with its fan base and create a new fan base. And at the same time, also have the score be contemporary enough to blend with all the needle drops and sort of, the vibe of the person who would want to watch this film. And it was really fun. And I guess we found out after the Emmy cutoff that we're actually getting a second one, which is really exciting. But yeah, it was a real dream project to get to work on, and pretty dreamy cast and dreams all around. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. So last year we had 4 women composers nominated in the song category, and also this year 2 songs written by women composers are in for consideration, and one of them was co-written by Kay Hanley. Hello, Kay.
Hey everybody, I'm Kay and I'm a songwriter. It is so great to be here, and I'm just hearing all of you talk about your projects. It's astonishing body of work. The project that I worked on was Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, the first ever musical episode of Star Trek called Subspace Rhapsody. And I co-wrote it with I'm in a band called Letters to Cleo, and the drummer of that band, Tom Polce, he and I wrote this episode together. And what can I say? It's Star Trek. It's a musical. I wrote a song for Spock, and actually there were nine songs. And I've been working in, I've been a professional songwriter for over 30 years, and I've been working in animation songwriter, and I write songs for cartoons. So I'm very familiar with writing for like these big fictional characters, but nothing could prepare you. Actually, maybe cartoons can prepare you to write for the Star Trek universe. And it was an unbelievable challenge. I cried, I had a nervous breakdown, I laughed a lot, wrote 9 songs in 5 weeks, 70-piece orchestra, 30 person choral. It was a dream come true. And now I'm here, and life is good. Oh, and the category is Outstanding Music and Lyrics for We Are One from Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Awesome. Natalie Holt, previously nominated for Loki for main title and score, and now we have Loki season 2 with even better music. So hello, Natalie.
I had a dream last night I'm just going to share it with you, as you just mentioned Star Trek, but it was kind of a nightmare. And I'd been asked to score a film which was Star Trek meets Pirates of the Caribbean. And it was like a fusion between space and pirates, medieval pirates. And like there were all these meetings. It was so realistic. And the producers were like, we just can't make this thing gel together and the music's all wrong. And I woke up like, oh, that was that was a nightmare. So it's so funny to just be reminded of Star Trek, having had that mad dream last night. But yeah, so the thing I'm here for is Loki season 2, which was just a dream project because I got to kind of take what I'd done on season 1 and just expand it out because, you know, season 2 kind of went into a mad place of like the end of time and Loki being kind of crowned. So it was just like this huge kind of moment for Marvel, and it was just really fun to kind of have that set up from season 1 and then be able to kind of expand it. Like it's the first time I've ever scored season 2 of a TV series, and it was the same producer, Kevin Wright, and I got to go on set this time and be part of it for that whole year that it was in development and kind of toss ideas at them, and I got a little cameo in it. I played in a Bavarian band at the Chicago World Fair in 1894. So that was fun to just be that much a part of it, that I got to be in the show as well. But yeah, so I'm nominated for, oh, not nominated, up for Outstanding Music Composition for a Series. Thank you.
I did not know you had a cameo. Did you kind of wear a dindle and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I had a dindle, and I was playing an accordion.
Okay.
And the theremin player who I used, they got him in as well, and he was dressed up with a sort of Bavarian hat, and he was playing the trombone. So we were just there on set all day, which was really fun.
Awesome. For audience, there's a Q&A button on the bottom if you want to post any questions to the panelists, to all of them or to some of them. If you want to please post that in the Q&A section, we can then, once we get to our Q&A part, I'm happy to pass them on. Emily Rice, you're up next.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Rice. My project is called The Love and Life No Ordinary Campaign. It's a documentary. I have to keep saying the name over and over in my head because it used to just be called No Ordinary Campaign, and then it came to Amazon and they changed the name, and I keep forgetting. The category I'm submitted in is Outstanding Music Composition for a Documentary. It's really lovely to be talking about this film now because I think I finished working on it a couple of years ago. It started out as an indie film, and it's just got legs and kept going and going and going, which is very cool. I think one of the challenges working on the score for me is the film, the subject matter is kind of tragic. You know, it's about this guy who was diagnosed with ALS when he was 37. He was given a prognosis of 6 months. 7 years later, he is still with us, which is incredible. And I have a tendency, if there's darkness, I will lean into it. But the big instruction given to me on this film was really that we had to stay hopeful and positive, which does not always come easily for me. And I like to write dark music. So that was very interesting, and yeah, I hope everyone will go watch it. It's such a inspiring, moving, heartfelt story. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Good to have you. And last but not least, Cara TALVE.
Hi, it's such an honor to be on here with all of you. Listening to you talk about these projects is very overwhelmingly inspiring. So the project that I'm up for consideration for is the Tattooist of Auschwitz, in the Outstanding Music for a Limited Series category. This project was really meaningful to me because I have a personal connection to the Holocaust, My grandmother, actually, her whole family was arrested when the Nazis invaded Paris. And she was only 9 years old when they knocked on her door, and they had a list of her whole family, and she was the only one missing from the list, miraculously. So when they took her parents and her siblings, she escaped through the fire escape and ran to her piano teacher's house, where she was hidden for the duration of the war, and she saved her life. And this score means so much to me because this piano behind me was her piano from that time, and she passed away a few years ago, and I inherited it, and I just had to use it for this score. So yeah, the score is co-composed with Hans Zimmer, and it was really the most meaningful project I've ever had the honor to work on. So and there's also a song that Barbara Streisand sings that we co-wrote, and that's in the music and lyrics category. So thank you for listening, and thanks for having me.
The song is called Love Will Survive.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. What a great story, Cara. It's like, I mean, I feel like that story alone should be a film. You know, like
I know.
your and your grandma's story and how the piano got here. I mean, like how it's like,
maybe someday. That would be amazing.
Well, thanks everyone for sharing about your project. I'm curious how, you know, so many young composers and so many of our membership that want to work more in television. Can you maybe talk a little bit how you made those initial contacts, how you got into scoring for television, if that was through your agents, through networking, through personal outreach, through existing contacts, whoever wants to start.
Well, I called up the my writing partner Michelle Lewis and I in 2006. We were just songwriters that, you know, we had just moved to LA, and we had all these ideas of like we had just started writing together. We had just moved to LA. We were really inspired, and you know, we came from the music business, but we had all these ideas about TV shows that we wanted to make. And we didn't know that you didn't just like call the president of Disney Channel and say like, hey, we have a show about music. Can we come in and pitch it to you? So we just called the president of the network, and we had this show called this idea for a show called Miles and Mazzy's Musicquarium. And we went in and we played we had like this one sheet that had like all the characters and the world, and we had the theme song. We played it live, and we left behind a CD with like all the segment songs and stuff, and we sold the show. It didn't get made. It didn't go anywhere, but because of that, we kind of got on the radar over at Disney Channel as people who could write music for, you know, for TV animation. And a few years later, you know, so we were up for a bunch of things. We actually sold another thing that didn't go anywhere. Again, like all the things that like don't happen, it's just like lining you up it's just teeing you up so you can like get in there at the right moment. And the right moment for us came in 2010 when Chris Nee, the creator of a show called Doc McStuffins, was putting together music for that show, and we got a call from Disney to come in and consult, and that consultation put us in a position to get our first series. So we were the songwriters on that series for 5 seasons, and it changed my life.
Cool. Anyone else? How did you get on your series? How did you get on your project? Sherry, or
I'll go, just because I think
Sophia, please, yeah.
I think it's a very common way, but just I think more than the one thing that I can point to when it comes to starting to work in television was just community and getting to know people. Because the first TV show that I ever worked on, I may have been on a long list, short list, but it was really someone who vouched. A few people who now in retrospect I know vouched for me to work on a show called Dickinson, which at the time was like an absolutely huge gamble to take. But it all came through, you know, like the studio folks and TV folks, they have their, most of the time, they have their ear to the ground. So it's just, you know, just getting to know your community, know your fellow music supervisors, know your music editors, you know, you never know. So that's really, I think I can just say community is really what did it for me, because I didn't have an agent when I got Dickinson. So it definitely wasn't that. But yeah.
I was gonna add to what both Kay and Sophia were saying too, that you know it's true. It's like when you like for me, I took the sort of more formal training route of going to USC and doing an undergrad in composition theory, and so I through coming out here to Los Angeles, there were obviously a number of people that believed in me. I mean, my first job was actually as an assistant to Walter Murphy, who writes for American Dad and Family Guy, and so and then my second sort of turning point was a television composer named Blake Neely, who just saw something in me as first as a singer and then as a writer, but just the idea of showing up and doing something that may not be exactly what you thought you were going to do when you first started doing this, but the idea of collaboration and just the idea of being able to work on a team and work with other people, I think is people don't want to work with a jerk, especially when you're working in episodic, so it's a long haul. So I think that, just showing up and really being open to learning from those around you who've just been doing it maybe a little bit longer or certainly are further along in their careers, I think is certainly, part of my story.
Natalie, you also wanted to share something?
Oh yeah, sorry, I just I always used to find that really intimidating to be like, oh, I need to be out there networking, because I think I've got a bit better at it, but I was very shy. And I kind of I don't live in LA. I live in the countryside in Kent, and I feel like my break with Loki came from just putting everything I had into the opportunity to pitch, because I know that like I had the meeting and that went really well, and then they went to pitch level, and I just always feel like when you've got the opportunity to pitch, just like I recorded live instruments, I got like a theremin in, and I really tried to listen to what the director wanted and like infuse as much of as I possibly could into that demo, and that's what got me the job. It wasn't any connection, like I'd never worked for Marvel before and I didn't know anyone there at all, so it was just purely on that pitch. But yeah, I think it's really important, just go for every opportunity.
Chanda?
One quick thing. Definitely agree with Natalie. So my first show that I worked on was for a show called The Defeated on Netflix. And I was just in the indie world. I was doing student films and Lifetime movie thrillers and getting paid in pizza, like seriously, like any gig that came through. And so I actually just released my own soundtracks of like the films that I worked on, even though these were small indie budgets. Like I literally paid out of my own pocket for like a live orchestra here or there, and I put it on Spotify myself under my own little label to make it seem legit. And I got a call from the co-founder of Bad Robot offering me a show based on what he was listening to on Spotify. So talk about like, yeah, that was super lucky. Yes. But at the same time, like, I feel like I laid the groundwork to make that luck actually happen. Like there was something there that somebody connected with and they contacted me. And so, I know it's not necessarily for everyone to go the assistant route. That was certainly not for me. And not necessarily, not everyone can get like in the room or but there's still so many paths to so many pathways in this industry. And I feel like, echoing what everyone here said, like being prepared, like, you know, creating your own luck by being prepared and having something to present to someone or for someone to hear. That's what's really going to make some headway for you, I think. So.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, because I really think, you know, luck just doesn't come. It's, you know, you set an intention, you prepare yourself, and then it can be unconventional. It can be, you know, you just send something like Kay to the, you know, the network, and they go for it, or you put it out there, and then, you know, luck kind of finds you also, but you have to lay the groundwork. I want to pick something up that Natalie said. You know, you said you kind of pitched for the project, and I wonder if several of you might have to demo or pitch for television for that project or for other projects in the past, and how, you know, if you could give some advice, how do you prepare a pitch for television? Is there something different than maybe a film project? And how do you go about it? How do you go about preparing your demo, you know, based on the brief that you get? Sarah?
I could start. Yeah, I was thinking about pitching as well when Natalie mentioned it. And, you know, for us on Planet Earth, you know, we were invited to pitch for the project through Bleeding Fingers. And we knew that there were also other people outside of the company also invited to pitch. And the way it worked for us was they asked us to write a couple things, to score a scene, and then also provide a main theme idea. And we knew that their process, the BBC works in a way where they do blind listening. So they don't have any information about who you are, your name. It's all just audio files that they receive. So so we knew that they were going to be listening really just based on no other prior knowledge. So I think that really drove Jacob and me to, you know, put as much into it as we could. Like Natalie was saying, you know, getting a player to a live player on it if possible, and yeah, just putting everything into it. So that's sort of that was our approach with this project. And I think it's a really special opportunity to have the chance to pitch, especially when you're, you know, maybe starting out or just looking to get into TV on your own for the first time. I think, yeah, jumping on those pitches and really giving it your all is my advice for sure.
Cool. Anyone else? Any advice on Chanda, on demos or pitching?
Yes, definitely agree with Sarah. So for Lawmen Bass Reeves, that was the first show that I had an agent to like help me get that show. And the music supervisor, Andrea Von Forrester, you know, sent to my agent kind of like just a log line, kind of what they're looking for. And so the demo that I sent in to Andrea was actually the main title sequence that you hear today, note for note. And so, and that mock-up that I did for them, I made sure that it sounded as huge and real as possible. I play string instruments, so I played on it as well, and just really just did an actual tailored job for the show. Like, this is how I think the show would sound. Here's the main title sequence, and then I did another cue, like here's an incidental cue. And Andrea sent that over to Taylor Sheridan, and then that's when I got the call from him. So yeah, you'll get the opportunity to pitch, just like Sarah said, and like you really have to like knock it out of the ballpark. There can't be anything left on the table, leave nothing on the floor. So yeah, when you get an opportunity, go for it. So
I think it's really
Sherry?
scary sometimes. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go first, Kay, and then Sherry. If you could also answer, it's in the chat. You know, because Sarah talked about BBC having blind pitches. Is that common, or is that more a European thing versus America? If someone could answer that also, please.
I know.
I can answer that one. The next chapter for me is EP of my own series over at Disney Junior, which is coming out in September, called Kindergarten the Musical, which you can just imagine what that is. But but we sent out the brief to composers. Like I never have, I'm always the one who gets sent the brief, and I'm always the one who's like, you know, like waiting to find out if, you know, and just having my heart broken or having my life change, you know, what the roller coaster that we all ride on. And we really did have we had blind listening to we didn't know who any of the composers were until we got to the top 10. We had, you know, like 40 submissions, I think. And until we got to top 10 or top 5, we did not know. So it was many rounds of not knowing who the people were. So Disney is doing that in animation. I know.
Sherry, you also wanted to say something about pitching and demo?
Yeah, to the question that somebody had too. Yeah, I've had projects where I've gotten a demo for it, and it's been a blind test, and then I've won, and I've had ones that I haven't gotten. But speaking to the demo thing, to what Chanda was saying too, you know, for based on a true story, I kind of thought I was a shoo-in, because it turns out that the creator and showrunner Craig Rosenberg happened to be married to a creator and showrunner of another show that I was already doing called Kung Fu. And by the way, that was not me being arrogant and saying, oh yeah, for sure I'll get this. But I thought, gosh, if anybody can speak to, you know, my ability to do the job, it might be, you know, his own partner. but in any case, I was asked to do a demo, which I was happy to do. And I think one of the reasons that I really like doing demos is because it really gives me an opportunity to have a point of view. And I think, to Shauna's point, and not only everyone would agree that, you know, you got to put everything, every ounce, and as you said, like nothing left on the table. But I also think, you know, don't try and make your goal like, I want to be the best one. I want exactly to do what they want to do. It's such a fine needle to thread that you're I think when I've had the most success, it's deciding what I want to say and going for it. And it could be really, really, really wrong. And I think that's okay too. Just, you know, coming with a point of view, coming with something that really speaks to what you want to write. If you were to get that project, what would you want to spend your time doing?
Cool. I have a question specifically to Natalie, but I'm gonna open that up to everyone. My question for Natalie Holt is, when you were doing the score for Obi-Wan Kenobi, how much of the overall story were you given prior to scoring the show, and how did that impact your approach to the show musically? But I want to open that up to, you know, whoever wants to also, after Natalie, chime in and talk about your recent project. And then I'm curious also then for the documentary composers in the room, how that approach was, and how much of the documentary is like, when was it locked, and did it change until the end, and was there always like updates to the documentary, or were you given all the footage pretty early on and were able to score beginning to end kind of thing? So let's start with Natalie.
Oh yeah, so Obi-Wan Kenobi, I came on board pretty late actually, because they had a composer who had to leave the project, who was on it for the, you know, the chunk of time, which would have been ideal to be on it, to be like developing ideas. So I came on it at Christmas last year, and then I had to deliver it in March. So I only had 3 months, and it was just, yeah, it was like already nearly finished editing. So it was kind of really late on, and I kind of watched all 6 episodes through with Deborah, and episode 6 was still kind of a bit up in the air, but it was just like, you know, nose to the grindstone, and it was like very, very much nearly there. And the main thing that was just in huge contention was like, because they're heritage characters, like how much of the new and how much of the old, and the director and the producers had kind of different ideas about that. So just a lot of like kind of different camps to kind of please with that project, which was tricky at times. But yeah, it was an amazing thing to be part of that universe, and to get to work with John Williams was just insane. dream. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Natalie. Does anyone anyone wants to chime in and answer that question also about their projects? Chanda, yes.
Yeah, so when I first wrote the demo, this was before I got a script or anything. So like I said, the demo for Lawmen Bass Reeves was the main title sequence that they wound up using. And then that one other incidental cue that I wrote is also in episode 1 of the show, note for note. So by the time I got the script and they started shooting, it was, I was just thinking about ideas for each episode, and really didn't start scoring until I had at least some picture, which was probably almost a year after I wrote the demo. So it was a really long process it was a lot of waiting for me, actually. So, but once the actual scoring for all of the shows started, it was completely unlike any project I have ever worked on, in that they just let me score the whole show. And I had like 2 notes. And like, that just doesn't happen at all. So, I mean, I've been on so many projects, the same thing that Natalie was saying, like, there's a lot of politics that are involved in certain projects, and like, you have to please everyone. But I don't know, I have no idea how or why, but I'm not going to complain. I'm going to be thankful to the scoring gods that this project was, yeah, we love it. Next episode. Yeah, we love it. Next episode.
It's a unicorn. I think it's a unicorn project.
It's like, like I couldn't comprehend it at first. I was like, are you sure you don't, just one note, maybe something should be changed a little. No, it was just all thumbs up next. So yeah, like I said, I don't imagine that happens
That's
very
the
often.
way it should be. Honestly, yeah. Like a lot of times I think that, like, not speaking of any executive who could possibly be here on listening to this panel, but like, do they actually really know what they're talking about? Because I think a lot of times, like, they're giving notes just because they feel like they're supposed to, when I think actually a lot of times, if you're the right person for the, like, put it this way, I'm not surprised that they heard your score and they were like, yep, that's right. That's we hired her because she's gonna give us what we thought she'd give us, what we want, and she did, and let's go,
Well, let's hope that happens again and again.
I know, like,
that would be nice, right?
For all of us too. Fingers crossed for that. Amazing.
Let's make it a permanent thing. Emily and Sarah, can you talk a little bit about how that worked on documentary? Like at what when you got on the project and what you were given and how much it changed throughout the process also.
Sure. Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll say, so for us, we were brought on really early, like months and months before we saw any sort of picture. And we had conversations at that point with the producers kind of about their vision for the show. And in terms of story with a nature documentary, it's tricky to talk too detailed at that point about the stories of the animals that are featured and stuff. But the overall message was that this season was meant to be a very distinct departure from the last season, in that each episode opens with this really stunning natural spectacle, and then a conspicuous human presence, which was a really deliberate departure from the previous season, and it just reflected a new mindset. Usually there are no humans except in the behind the scenes stuff at the end. So through this kind of new lens of storytelling, that humans are a part of the picture, we really wanted the score to reflect that. And the result musically was that we anchored the score around solo players throughout. So even in like the most epic arrangements, there's a very clear and unmistakable presence of some soloists. So we worked with a lot of really incredible musicians across the world for this. But so that was the kind of really early talks that we were having, which helped shape some of the early suites that we did, like the main theme pitch, which we eventually, they encouraged us to be like really experimental and bold for that, which was really great. And so that took kind of a while to nail down. And then once we arrived at a main theme that was accepted by everyone, that was kind of like our North Star going into, you know, the project, because it was essentially embodying the sound of the show. You know, a lot of these nature shows are very tonally complex, right? There's a lot of heartbreaking scenes. There's a lot of joyous scenes. There's a lot of beauty. So it requires a you know, a sound musically that is able to bring all of those elements together and help kind of tell the story that the creators are trying to tell. So yeah, that was kind of what was happening early on before we got picture. And then once we got picture, kind of having those themes in place, it was a nice way in, you know, to start writing, because of course the schedules get tighter and tighter, more episodes that you work on down the pipeline. But yeah, that was kind of our way in.
And for you, Emily?
Yeah, so I think for this documentary, I was brought on, I think, in the spring, and I think I delivered eventually kind of around like October of the same year. But we had a bit of a gap in the middle, because about halfway through, Katie Couric came on as one of our executive producers, and I think she started giving some notes on the editing. So at that point, a lot of stuff changed, and then I kind of carried on. I'm trying to remember how it all started. I think they sent me a rough cut, and then it was like, watch it, see what you think, let's have a conversation. Also, here's a playlist of stuff that Brian, you know, the subject of the film, has put together. Have a listen to that, and then let's have a chat. So that's what we did. And I think there's always, I don't think we ever get locked cut straight away anymore. Like, I don't remember that ever happening for any project I've worked on. So there's often new cuts, and you're conforming and all the rest of it. My experience of that with the documentary is, I feel like the bones of what the story is always pretty solid at the beginning, and so a lot of the edits, it would be more like, oh, let's take this scene and pick it up and put it here instead. Whereas with some of the narrative projects I've worked on, I find that they like snip at scenes a lot more, which makes conforming a lot more annoying. So yeah, so I basically had the bulk of what it was going to be very early on, and so we just started, you know. And my approach normally is that I'll write like a handful of scenes. I really love starting with the opening scene every time, because I always find that's my way into the film, and if I can get that kind of right, then I feel like I know where I am and what's going on musically. So yeah, I would have sent them like a handful of scenes, and are we in the right ballpark or not, and then we go from there. Interestingly, and similarly to what Natalie was saying, I did a TV show a few years ago, and that also was what we call a rescue score. And so in that situation, I had all 7 episodes, and I got to watch all 7 episodes before I took the meeting. And that was really helpful, because they were done, like that was all locked, I think. And so I was able to like go into the meeting like really, I felt really well informed in terms of what I thought it needed musically, and what I thought I would do, and what themes I would have, and how that broader arc was going to work. So that was really helpful, but I feel like it differs project to project, generally. You know, there's another film I've been working on for 8 months. We're still not locked. I think I'm currently working on like the 9th cut, and it's driving me crazy.
Thanks, Emily. So it's interesting. So you said you kind of started with the opening scene, and Sarah more with the main theme. So I'm wondering if some more of you could chime in. What's your starting point? And you all have amazing themes for your project. So how do you how do you go about it, crafting an impactful main theme for or character themes for your shows, and then also for I also feel, although you didn't have a song on Red, White, and Royal Blue, but Kara and Kay, how do you kind of start writing like emotionally impactful or a catchy comedy song for your projects? So theme song, starting
Theme
point,
song,
who wants to chime in?
Theme songs have been kind of my bread and butter since I got into television. And I think the one, you know, it really depends on the project. I remember there was this one show called DC Superhero Girls and over at Warner Brothers, and the team, the showrunner was this woman who was like a fan of 90s bands. So like I was in, because I'm 90s band girl. And but she was an animator. She got her start as an illustrator, and so, you know, when we went to pitch, and by the way, I wasn't in right away. We did have to pitch. But knowing what I knew about her as a person and what her taste was, it was like, we just kind of went for what we thought she would like. But the other thing that you have to accomplish is, you know, some version of, here's the story of a man named Brady, or like, just sit right back in your hair. You know, you have to kind of say what the show is about most of the time. I mean, some people don't want that, but a lot of the time they do. And so if you're writing a theme song that is lyrical, you know, lyrics and music, you know, I really try and think about the characters, the world, and the person, the taste level of the person who is running the show, because they are, you know, the theme song is the first, you know, when you're in the other room and you hear that theme song, you know, like the first strains, that drum fill, or the, you know, wow, or which is something that, you know, lots of wow. I deploy lots of wow in my theme songs. And you know, people will come running from the other room like, oh, it's on, trying to find those sort of like, I guess the theme song version of, you know, just what is that nugget at the top that's going to make people run from the other room to come in, and because their show's starting.
Cool. Anyone? Chanda?
So my experience for, you know, I explained it before, the main title sequence for Lawmen Bass Reeves was the demo. And essentially what I did was I went on Wikipedia and I found pictures of the real life Bass Reeves and just stared at it and then sang into my iPhone, literally any idea that came to my head naturally. I have, in my own personal experience, I feel like if you're able to sing the theme really easily, it'll become an earworm much quicker. Just my opinion. And so, yeah, that was how, you know, I just da 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 da, and everybody's, you know, like, yeah, you know, that's Bass Reeves right there. So, and then also for, you know, for another show that I did, it was the same kind of thing. Like the producers wanted, the show was set in post-World War II Berlin, and it was, you know, the ruins of Berlin, and it was about an all-women police force that was trying to keep the peace and trying to, like, you know, bring the city back to some sort of order after the horrors of what happened in the war. And so the producers wanted something that's kind of mysterious, a little bit James Bond-esque, a little, but slightly modern, not so much the period. Like we wanted to be a fresh take on it, and also big orchestral. So you're like, what does that sound like, kind of thing. And again, it was going to my iPhone and singing what was the main cello theme for the show, The Defeated. And that tends to be my go-to, singing into my iPhone and then putting it into Pro Tools.
I second that.
Oh,
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, it's always right before going to bed. It's like you're just about to like turn down for the day, and then all of a sudden like, wait a minute, I have the best idea. And then of course it's like you sing it in, and then you're like waking up your partner or your family while you're doing it. Yeah, it's always at the least convenient times. But I guess it's really when you like allow yourself space to think is like when ideas come flooding in. And I guess I'm already talking, I'll be quick. So I can let Cara.
Oh no, I was just seconding that and saying like that was something I heard Paul McCartney used to do in the Beatles. He was like, but he didn't. I wonder whether sometimes like if you record it on your iPhone, I think it's more pure to just like see if you can remember it in a couple of hours. Because if it's on your iPhone, it's like, well, I don't know. I just feel like actually being able to remember it is more powerful. And that was one of his tricks for coming up with a catch in his songs in the Beatles. But yeah, sorry, I'll let someone else speak.
I would never remember my stuff the next morning. It would be like a dream. It'd be like, wait, I think it was like this. I don't know. But while as I was saying, while I'm still talking, for Red, White, and Royal Blue, I didn't write an original song. There's plenty of other songs, and two artists, Vagabond and Oliver Sim, did covers and new versions of other songs. So that was sort of covered. But I think because these characters were so well known to their fans and to the fan base of the books, it was really important. And it's told from the perspective of two longing lovers that are often separated, by distance, but also by their positions, because it's the son of the first woman president of the United States and the spare heir of the British throne. And the idea that I had thematically was that their themes could be very distinct, one on guitar and one on piano. But what if throughout the whole movie you don't realize that at the end they can play together? So in that case, I actually started with the theme at the end because it had to be sort of like the big culminating moment, so that then I could extract the two themes that the audience doesn't realize they're listening to the main theme the whole time. It's just, orchestrated in two different characters. And I think it's really effective because then, I've had fans on Twitter who have been like, oh yeah, like they can distinguish that like Henry's instrument is the piano and different pianos, and the other characters is the guitar. So it's really cool when people kind of catch on to like what we're trying to do, and you're like, yay, it worked. So that's kind of how I approached this film. Yeah.
Cool. I have two more questions. One, if a few of you can answer, and then I have one more round that I would want everyone to answer. Both Sophia in the beginning and also Sherry, you talked about collaboration and community and building a team and the importance of that. So I'm just curious, some of you have co-scored, but everyone, I think, works in a team, and it's really required nowadays. If you have, it's your musical team, it's, for assistant, co-composers, but also, music editors and music supervisors. How do you build a team, and how do you collaborate, and how, if you can talk a little bit about that and the importance of it also.
I will say, I think some of the best leaders, the people that I have been able to follow, and hopefully the kind of leader that I'm also trying to be, are the people that trust the people that they're hiring. If you're hiring that person, trust them to do their job, give them ownership of it. It's going to lead to like the best kind of collaboration when everybody feels like it's a safe space to bring your ideas, but there's still always like, one person leading the charge.
If I could add to that, I think that's a really good point, Sherry. I think also, like, I don't have a set team like I don't work with a team on every project, but occasionally I do. And something that's important for me also is to ensure that I set my team up for success as well. And I think that means that I need to be clear on what my intention is. I need to be clear on what help do I actually need. Is the person I'm hiring kind of new? Are they more experienced? And I think, you know, I've been in lots of different teams with lots of different kinds of composers. And yeah, you absolutely have to be able to trust them. But for me, it's like a two-way thing in that way as well, in terms of like, I'm going to trust you to do your job, but let me also explain exactly what I need from you. So there's like sort of some mutual understanding and respect, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to chime in about collaboration, team building, community building?
I mean, I guess I don't actually have a team. I'm working on it. I'm working on bringing more people together, but I do co-compose a lot and have with my partner, Ian. I think maybe half of my work is co-composed with him. And I think the good thing is that when you find like a way of working together, it can be very efficient and you can be very sort of like on the same page, and you can sort of stop each other from going too far on a cue if it's not the right direction because someone else comes in and chimes in. But the most important thing is that it's a no judgment zone. So I think it's just, you know, echoing what everyone's already said, is just going in and just trying to make people feel comfortable enough that they feel like they can just be truly themselves and that they can make mistakes in front of you, because that's the hardest thing, right? You don't want to seem like you don't know what you're doing. Whereas if you make people feel comfortable enough and you trust them enough, then, you know, we all make mistakes. None of us can just, I mean, maybe some of you, I can't like just go in and, you know, write something without a few wrong notes here and there. So really just trust and no judgment, I think, really important.
I
That's
love the
beautiful.
idea of that everybody's kind of when it comes to collaboration, that creating a space where people can like dare to suck, where people can bring their dumbest ideas, because so much of the time it's the integrity of that first take, that like that initial spark where you're just like, that's stupid, you know. It's like, bring that. That's the take I want to hear.
I just want to say how inspired I am and how glad I am to have like built up musicians. Like I go to gigs and I'm like, oh, they're amazing. I'm gonna like Instagram them. And like I love going to concerts and keeping myself inspired with like amazing musicians, and then trying to include them on different projects and also like make sure their contribution is visible. Like I kind of did an Instagram thing after I did Loki both times, where I'd like make little videos of the incredible musicians I had, like the theremin player and the pianist and Andreas with his nose flute on Star Wars. So I think it's really, I just love being inspired by musicians, and big shout out to all of the people that played for me. Like they're just incredible, inspiring people to work with.
Yeah, I second that for sure. On Planet Earth, we worked with so many soloists that just brought an unimaginable amount of creativity and passion to the project, and it just reminded me that hiring real people to do real things is a really wonderful gift. And yeah, there were situations on the project where we were working on demos for maybe more experimental scenes, and then we'd send a first draft in to the production to get notes, and they were a little lukewarm about it, and then we bring in our vocalist who we worked with, this vocalist Ari Mason, who's just unbelievable. The amount of otherworldly sounds she can make with her voice is just like unmatched, and she added some layers to it, which just brought it to life in a way that sold everyone on it immediately. And that was such a special experience. And so we really were excited to sort of lift up all of the amazing players that we were able to work with on this project, because they're crazy good.
The last question, it's a question specifically to Natalie, but I want to open that up to everyone. It's about inspiration. So Natalie already talked about it a little. The question specifically is, did you ever feel uninspired while composing for Loki? And if you did, how did you get around it? And then I want to open it up to everyone. How do you overcome, writer's block maybe, or like if a project doesn't go as well, with producers, sure. How do you inspire yourself? Or the other question that you could answer, so if everyone could answer one question, how do you, was there anything about that last project that you submitted that you learned that inspired you for the future, that you felt like, oh, this was really inspiring working for Love and Life or on Loki or your project? So I start with Natalie.
Yeah, no, I really felt so lucky with Loki, because it's sometimes if you're starting off with a script and you don't know who's playing the character, and there was so much kind of already there with Loki that to be inspired by. So I felt like when I was writing my pitch for the show, I just had this richness of kind of like already knowing like how he plays the character, and then having that in my mind. And like Chandra was saying, that I kind of sat with the story and the characters, and like I go for a bike ride actually, and I just go around the forest and try and sort of come up with ideas, and I hum things into my phone, or like, yeah, come up with a little hook that I feel connects into the show. And like I kind of love to have a concept to sort of hang the score on, and it's sort of, and I love this sort of having a suite of themes for all the characters, because then you're watching a scene and you're kind of like, well, that will be that theme, and then I'll do something with that to tell this bit of the story. And it just sort of, everything kind of meshes together when you find those themes and sounds, and it just kind of like feels like it sort of comes together in a really amazing way when it works and you're allowed the space to be creative, which I feel like I was on Loki. And yeah, the uninspiring moments do tend to come from those restrictions where you're on version 17 or 18 of the same cue, and the director likes it and the producer hates it, and those are where it's tricky to stay inspired. And again, I think just going out for a walk and hearing what's in your head, that's my advice.
Emily, do you want to talk about inspiration?
I heard this somewhere when I started out in going to school, and it was like, think of yourself as first a composer and then a film composer. And I actually think that that's true, at least for me, that, a lot of us started out as just writing music. We didn't really necessarily do it under the parameters of time and budget and deadlines and all these gods to serve. So I feel like that one of the biggest things that I need to, when I start a project, and I certainly did this based on a true story, is I'm definitely inspired by what I see, and I was inspired by the images that I was doing for the demo. But I think the biggest thing was just being able to write away from picture with the images in mind, the ideas in mind, the creative conversations that we had, that Craig and I had. But I think the biggest part is going away and just writing away from picture to allow, to get a little frou-frou about it, to allow the inner child to play. And that's really what we're doing here. You can serve all those gods later when you have to come back and actually do the work. But I think the biggest part for me is, just being able to explore sounds, nothing's wrong ever, and being able to take all the editing hat, the judgment hat, the you suck hat off, and put on just like your play clothes, and just really get dirty and figure out what you want to say with the project.
Cara, was there anything that you took away that you feel like you learned as an artist that you felt inspired working on the Tattooist of Auschwitz?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing we talked about with Hans really resonated with me through the whole project, and that was when he said, sentimentality is unearned emotion. And this was really profound for me to hear. And in writing the tone tracks, I sort of discovered what he meant by that. And the images in this show and the story really speak for itself. So it was really important for the whole production that we were really abstract and never illustrative or over the top or epic with the music, because that's just not what the score needed to be. And we really allowed ourselves time to think about the theme and how we're going to tell this story, because it's such a sensitive, time relevant subject matter. And we actually visited Auschwitz in Poland, and that was a really intense experience for everyone, but I think we owed it to the production and the story and everyone involved to really immerse ourselves in the topic and different literature of the Holocaust. And I think that sort of discovery process is really what helped us find how the score will sound. And the theme itself it's a love theme. This whole story is a love story, but it's a very complex, dark love story. Obviously, it's love in the darkest place. So the theme really needed to reflect this deep sadness, but also have hopeful moments. So that's what we talked about. And I was really inspired by our initial conversations around the music.
Anyone else want to talk about inspiration, how you find inspiration, how you turn bad moments into positive ones? Chanda.
Well, definitely piggybacking off what Sherry and Natalie said, which is distilling it down to essentially being yourself, the product of yourself. Like Sherry said, I'm pretty sure a lot of us started composing when we were very young, and it was just playing on the piano, making up your own little themes and things like that. I grew up playing in orchestra. I'm a violinist. So, when it came time to do the score for Bass Reeves and having that conversation with Taylor Sheridan and finding out that he's in love with Dvorak just as much as I am, or Bartok or things like that. And also infusing that orchestral background that I grew up having with also my own cultural background, and then using Black spirituals within the score to create just a very unique world where Eastern Europe orchestra meets Black spirituals. I mean, it's that's Bass Reeves. You're not going to get that all the time. So and that was just very inspiring, because it was something that I feel like came very easy. I was again allowed to be myself, and so I would say on other projects maybe it's been the same kind of thing like Natalie described, where you had to do like version 10, and and in those moments, for me personally, I go and I drink a whole bunch of water. I need like so much water.
I thought you were going to say vodka.
It's the exact opposite. I can't do alcohol. Like I can't, like I have to be so clear-headed. And so like just a bunch of water and like vegetables. And for some reason, like it makes my body feel better. So I feel like less angry or worn down when I have to do like version 10. Because if I had vodka, no, that'll make me more angry. So
I grew up in a rock band. I learned how to write songs in a rock band on the road. And so like my whole early songwriting diet was Marlboro Lights and Jack Daniels. That's like, it was kind of hard to learn how to write songs like completely sober. But I mean, now I feel the same way. It's like, I can't pollute the instrument. But yeah, early on, for the first 15 years of my songwriting, it was all substances all the time.
I can definitely understand that. I did play played in a band, like in a shoegaze band, like in the Silver Lake LA. It's a band called Modern Time Machines. But anyway, like yeah, there was a lot of stuff, especially when you're on stage and you're just vibing out. But yeah, not for Brahms. I needed to be quiet in here for Brahms.
We'll do some veggie deliveries from the Alliance, veggies and water.
Kind of continuing off what everyone said, just having your own, I still have my own artist project. And I think if I feel stuck in the film stuff, then I just kind of not only remind myself that I can do my own music, but then I just maybe go and start a track for myself, and that usually kind of unblocks something as well. And the same thing just kind of with downtime. It's nice to have, you know, or when you are on version 10, 17, whatever of a cue, then you're just kind of like, you feel empowered in yourself because you have your own artist project, where it's like they're giving notes because it's their vision, but I have my vision and I'm still, you know, it's like this meditative point of being like, I have worth because I do things for myself. So I feel like that's really helpful, especially when it's been a little bit slower now in the last year. It's like been a really nice thing to be like pour it, creative energy into that. Yeah.
I love that I have the opposite experience of that, Sophia. In my life as an artist, I feel so a lot of times feel so constrained by my ego. You know, the like, I don't want to say this because it will reveal too much about myself, you know, like it's just I a lot of times get, you know, my inspiration gets really dinged by, you know, not wanting to say too much or fear about what I'm revealing. And when I get a script and it says the music goes here, it does this, this, and this, it connects this idea to this idea. When I'm working in the service of someone else's creative vision, I kind of feel fearless. Like I can do or say anything because it's not about me anymore. And then I can come back to my art and try and bring a little bit of that fearlessness back to my artist life. But it's like, I think that the two coexist in this really, you know, in this, what is the word that I'm looking for? They're really connected, but they're really disconnected. They exist separately, but together in this sort of symbiotic way.
And what a joy it is when you do get a project where you are able to express yourself fully as well, like that, and it feels like those are quite rare. So it's like those projects inspire you to keep going with it. Yeah.
We have to come to an end. Unfortunately, we're already 15 minutes over. I apologize for keeping you all here so long on this morning or evening in London. We're going to post this video on YouTube. Thanks, everyone. I hope you will all come to our Alliance Summer Party in August, and we can celebrate all the women Emmy nominees and maybe also have some live performances. I would love that. And good luck with voting next week. Good luck, Sherry, with the Deadline concert this week. I think also ASMEC is doing a concert with some Emmy contenders. So I hope the audience will not only look at this video, but also research your amazing music. And I hope all Emmy voters will go out and vote for the Emmys. And I hope everyone goes out and votes in November. And that's it. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I really, really appreciate it.